Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm joined in the studio with Noor and Rizwana, and we'll be making a response to an interview that Michaela Peterson had made between two opposing views between Mohammed Hijab and Ayaan Hirsi. We'll talk a little bit about them during the interview, but let's jump into the first video, which we'll be looking into now.
Women are expected to cover their bodies, and there is some kind of discussion on how much of that. In some cases, they let you show the face and the hands. And in extreme cases, you have to be covered from head to toe, confined to the house. Your male guardian chooses, or at least you need his endorsement to marry someone else. And all of this is based in Sharia law. If you're a woman and you're not happy in a marriage, it's almost difficult, almost impossible to divorce your husband. And the other way around, for a man to divorce his wife, all he has to say is declare in front of two witnesses 3 times that he divorces his wife.
Classic Ayaan Hirsi style. So she jumps with a lot of her opinions without actually justifying and being a bit more scholarly. But let's go into this question. So the question essentially is Islam inherently misogynistic, is basically what she's going at. And she's using hijab, divorce, guardianship laws, things like that to kind of make her point. So if I start with you, Rizwana, what do you think about what she was talking about? You know, we have to cover from head to toe, and it's so extreme in terms of the hijab, and that it's perceived as a negative thing. What's your view on that?
Yeah, I mean, she has said that Islam is misogynistic because women have to cover. So the first thing that I immediately thought of was, why is this covering such a bad thing? Is the opposite actually more freeing? Is being less covered something that is more liberating? And I don't think so. And so many Muslim women do not think so. Rather, dressing modestly is a choice, and it actually is a movement now we can see in today's society. In 2022, back to the Olympics in 2020, women are now trying to make decisions for themselves about how to dress, rather than catering to the male gaze, which I think is hugely powerful. So female athletes not wanting to wear, for example, gymnasts not wanting to wear the more revealing leotards and choosing to wear a full bodysuit. Again, that choice and that freedom of conscience of deciding what to wear and respecting that for women. So for her to say that Islam is misogynistic because women are choosing to cover, to follow the religion, just is, it's not based, it's nonsensical.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is actually worth talking about the fact that a lot of these gymnasts, particularly in America, I remember watching the interview of a couple of these gymnasts who talked about why they wanted to wear the more modest leotards, essentially. And it's really tricky, actually, being a female athlete when you're that young and you're going through the process of puberty, and you're very body self-conscious during that time anyway, and you're expected to dress in the way that they do now, and they feel more comfortable.
Yeah, and I think in this country even they've found that the specifics that are required for sport, female sport, are turning away so many young girls from even participating in the sport because of that uniform that's required that doesn't even have an evidence base in improving the sport itself.
Yes, and your performance actually as an athlete.
Exactly that. Yeah. And then I think one huge example for me that I remember reading about was about Hillary Clinton and how she chose to dress more modestly during her campaign. She decided to wear trousers and suits instead of skirts, etc. And when she was asked, it was because she had an incident where she was upskirted and kind of harassed that way, a few incidents, I think. And she said to take that out of the equation and to help her to, speak about, to address the political side of things rather than
be distracted by that.
Exactly. Yeah. She made that conscious decision. So can we say that that decision that she made is is a bad thing. No, absolutely not. We can't.
And against like human and women's rights as
Exactly.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that what we need to be just really focusing on is whether it's my choice to dress modestly. And if it's my choice, then I have to have the right to do it, no matter what it is. It's just, I want to do it this way.
And it cannot be two standards for Muslim women and non-Muslim women.
Exactly.
Like, just because a Muslim woman is choosing to dress modestly based on her faith, we cannot say that is negative. But actually, a Western woman who is moving towards modesty, that's liberating. How can that be reconciled?
Or even juxtaposing that to the fact that nuns cover their hair and they dress modestly and they're seen as devout religious women, and it's like more power to them. Well, actually, Muslim women are dressing in the same way for the same reasons, because they're devoted to God. And it was the same reason why I started dressing more modestly, wearing the headscarf as well, because I wanted to gain that nearness to God by kind of turning away from more materialistic desires, and that improved my connection with God. So, I mean, Ayaan, unfortunately, she's kind of missed the boat on that, I guess. But she's just seeing the fact that you're all covered up, therefore it's negative. But there are very many positive experiences, and you just have to ask Muslim women who wear their headscarves to ask why they're wearing it, to see that there is a different side of things. The other issue that she raised, actually, which was interesting, was the issue of divorce, and that there's a perception that there's a difference in the process within Islam, like between men and women. Nora, what do you think about the comment she was saying?
I think, obviously, if we have a divorce is just gives us an opportunity to separate from someone that we can't live with, that we're not happy to actually live with.
Yeah.
And there is one specific way of doing it, which is a divorce, which one way of doing it is obviously the man can say that he wants to divorce, but there's also where the woman want to do khula, which is the female version of divorce.
So there is divorce process in Islam,
and it's not like
different actually in Christianity, where there isn't that process, for example.
I think that's the one really big thing to highlight.
Yes.
And then where the divorce has to have, obviously both of them agree on having the divorce, khula is also mostly done when the woman specifically can't or don't want to live with the husband anymore. And even if he doesn't fully agree with it, she can give up the gifts and the things that he gave her. And then she can say, I just can't do it. I'm doing khula and I'm leaving. Obviously, both of them are like processes that need to be followed as any process in a court or anything that you need to follow.
Even here in the UK, there's a process you have to follow.
And then, so there is a divorce, 100%. There is a way to actually leave a specific person if you're not happy to stay with them in Islam. And I think it's even more empowering for women when there is like khula specifically if she does not or cannot stand staying with that specific person anymore.
And actually, because the way Ayaan was saying, she was saying that it's really difficult for women. Almost impossible, right?
That's what she...
But I know of instances in the hadith, which I'm sure we're going to touch upon, where there were female companions during the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, where she approached him and he asked her why she wanted to divorce, and she basically didn't give a specific reason. She just didn't want to be with him anymore, and then he granted her the divorce. I mean, how hard was that for her to do? She approached the Prophet and she asked him. That doesn't mean that she had to go through a rigmarole process. That seemed pretty straightforward, to be honest.
And just for an issue of incompatibility, so we can see how Islam allows for divorce, and it allows for women to apply for divorce, which is, as you said, Anne-Marie, it is hugely different to what came before. So how can Ayaan Hirsi Ali say that it's almost impossible? Right. Yes, it was almost impossible before Islam came and gave that right to women. So if she's talking about pre-Islam, sure. And even now we see that divorce is such a morass of, it's difficult now in today's society because there's so many preconditions and there's so much animosity and there's so much that comes with it. Divorce is really prevalent. We know that about today's society. But Islam puts together a very clear framework for both the husband and the wife to leave the marriage.
A simple framework, actually. A simple framework.
But one that, again, has procedures, and that's to uphold the rights of both parties. But in particular, as Noor said, to uphold the rights and empower the woman to be able to leave a marriage.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think what we need to also differentiate that when we're talking, yes, it's before Islam, it wasn't the case, but it wasn't the case even like 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's a really important thing to mention as well. It's great that now the situation is allowing women to actually get a divorce if they want to, but 100 years ago it wasn't the case. Like she,
absolutely.
even if she wasn't happy, she's going to have to stay or do something to herself to actually leave that kind of space. But I think so. Now the fact that Islam has given it to a Muslim woman around 1400 years ago, just obviously gives us the impression that how much Islam empowered women and actually gave women their rights much before anyone else did.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And just going on from that, because she mentioned again as one of her points this issue of guardianship laws, which have been the spotlight has been mostly picked upon Saudi Arabia, but other countries as well that operate this idea of guardianship laws. Could you tell us a little bit more about that? What it involves, and is it actually within Islam or what?
Yes, definitely. I think if I want to first translate guardianship, it would be wali in Islam or in Arabic, not in Islam.
Yeah,
and then the word wali basically a big word that can have many meanings depending on the word attached to it, which we call mudaf ilayh, which is the word after the word wali. So it can be like in the Quran it's mentioned Allahu waliyul ladhina amanu, and that's in verse 2 in like chapter 2 verse 258, and that means Allah is a supporter or proponent of those who believe. Now another verse is saying al mu'minuna wal mu'minat ba'duhum awliya'a ba'd. It means and the believers, men and women, are friends of one another. So wali, and another way of putting wali as well is that wali qarya or wali space. It means the ruler of the area. So it's very, very different. The word wali can be used very differently depending on the word after it.
Okay.
Now, if we go wali al-mar'a, is like the guardian of the woman, is a person that is required for the nikah in terms to represent the woman for the nikah to be valid.
Yes.
Now, when I heard that question and when I heard her talking about guardianship and the way that she actually represented guardianship is that the woman has no say whatsoever in what the guardian decide, which is very, very far from the truth. I think when we're talking about wali al-mar'a, wali is mostly is only actually used in nikah. Like it's when the wali is required to do the nikah. Now,
and nikah being the marriage contract.
The marriage contract, Islamic marriage contract. Now, but the nikah, to start with, the nikah cannot be valid without the woman actually approving to it.
And then consent to it.
Yes, consent to it, exactly. So there is one hadith that mentioned Hazrat Khansa bint Khaddam al-Ansariya, and she's a Muslim woman. She went to Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said that her father wants her to marry someone that she doesn't want, and there is another person that she wants to marry. And he said, La nikaha lahu, inkahi ma shi'ti. Like there is no nikah. Like this nikah is not valid. Go and marry whoever you please. And this obviously brings us to the point that to start with, the nikah cannot be valid if she's not happy. Now, why is the wali important? Why is it important to have a wali? Now, obviously the nikah is, when we're talking about nikah, which is the marriage, the Islamic marriage, is to announce to people that this marriage has happened. It's sort of it's a social contract. Social contract that governs the right of both female and male, and it usually happens in the premises of the mosque or if there is any specific area. And when there are men, they usually, the father or the wali is representing to the woman. So for them to actually say, have you accepted, then that would be the husband's father. Then they would ask the father, have you accepted the marriage to happen? Then he's basically, how I understand it, is like he's conveying the yes of the woman and the girl, and saying that yes, she's accepted and I'm happy with this. And that's the main thing I understand. So of course it is important to have a guardian, obviously, for in terms of like saving your rights and then making sure that it's clear for everyone. It's also important like to have two witnesses. That's part of the nikah. Now, but what's important to start with is the woman saying yes. Is she being happy with the nikah, consenting to the nikah? And when you come and say, oh, she needs guardian for everything, that is Like,
That's
no,
not what-
no, it's
yeah.
not what the meaning
Islam says as
behind
well,
it.
actually,
Yes,
about
yes.
it in the first place.
Yes.